so Mark, let's start with UFC as a business model predating your agreement with Paramount. Okay. Um, you've been on obviously both sides of these deals. When you looked at it and the pay-per-view model with ESPN, how healthy a business was it for UFC?
It's been cyclical. I would say overall the relationship with ESPN just extraordinary. And start there. I mean, obviously ESPN is the destination for sports fans. It's appointment viewing, and there's no better marketing partner in sports. 24/7, they want to get behind something, they get behind it. You know it too well. Because of course when they don't, you also know that. And they did more for the UFC than any partner we've ever had. And I would say the fact that we are mainstream and so strong with young men and the demos that we have, of course, it has a lot to do with our fighting stable and Dana White in the history, but ESPN took us to another level. So it was great. And we knew what we were walking into, Doug, right? This was an ESPN Plus play that they're going to use ESPN and ESPN2 as a Barker channel to watch the prelims, maybe even watch the early prelims, and then move you over to ESPN Plus to sign up. So when we started with them, we were in 3 million homes, and we quickly grew to 24 million. And their words, not ours, we were the anchor tenant of ESPN Plus. So it was great. But I think over time, over the 7 years, a couple things happened. One is they just kept raising price, and it got to a point where it was just too much. And we know that for a fact because the pay-per-view started slipping, the total number of buys, and the pirating went to insane levels. I mean, and Dana, as you know, is now on the board of Meta. So we've seen unbelievable numbers across Facebook and our relationship with YouTube on tens of thousands of streams. And that
Okay, wait. So give me a sense. Give me some. When you say the pirating, okay, because I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Because I've been at parties. We're like, do we buy this? We're like, no, no, no. We got a Fire Stick. We're in there. What are the type of numbers that would be pirated?
Tens of thousands of streams. And how many people were watching each of those streams? We don't even know. It just got to be too much because it's too expensive. You're paying $11.99 to get ESPN Plus. That's what you have to do monthly. And then to get the pay-per-view, you're paying $80. So it almost becomes the sales prevention department. And we discussed this with ESPN, and they had different data, and they just didn't agree, and they just kept going. They did introduce some early bird specials. If you buy 2 weeks beforehand, you get $5 off. But it
Nobody
was
does that.
nothing that was going to solve the crisis. Now, in their defense, the UFC, while obviously we have stars, Amanda Nunes and John Jones and Justin Gaethje and a lot of folks along the way, Usman Kamara, we didn't have anyone at the level of Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey in the later years of our 7-year deal. And they
Right.
would point to the pipeline. And so just being fair across the board, look, you got to win to become a star. We can't manufacture it. This isn't the WWE. And so there might be some truth to that, but the fighting itself, the matches, the competition, the events have never been better, never been better. And the fact that you have a lot of Russian and Middle Eastern champions, it is what it is. You got to beat the best. And our core fans get that. You do want commercial stars, and I think over time it's very cyclical. It rides different waves. When GSP left the UFC is, oh my God, they have no other stars. And then someone else emerges. So you got to be patient and you got to be in it for the long haul.
If you were on the other side, right? Because I like it. I liken this one to when you were at ESPN and had you lost Monday Night Football, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because Sunday night, when we lost Sunday night, but you couldn't lose Monday night. If you were on the other side, what would you have done to prevent you from switching to Paramount?
I wouldn't have let it get away. I mean, let me just say, Bob Iger is the biggest sports fan of any executive in the media business. I mean, he started at ABC Sports, and he's a massive boxing fan too. Like he knows the combat sports area. He came to our Sphere event last year, which was a real spectacle. Look, you're launching ESPN direct to consumer. I think it launches, in the next couple of days here.
Right.
You're charging $29.99. You want to see people either authenticate if they have cable and satellite already, And if they don't, you want them to pay $29.99. So you want all the premier sports. The UFC fan is very, very passionate. I mean, it's the fervor, the fan avidity is insane, right? And 40% of our audience is women. So you've got moms buying, and you've got obviously young men, young women who watch 6-hour cards. I mean, this is what you dream of. And there's 43 events. So look, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. I don't know their budgets. I don't know their dollars. They got a lot of money to spend. They've made big investments in the NFL, the CFP, the NBA. And you know what? Money doesn't stretch that far, and their linear business is declining. So they had to make some decisions. I think the WWE deal is brilliant for them. The idea of WrestleMania on ESPN, brilliant. And maybe they just couldn't afford everything. But having UFC, which is a year-round sport, while you're trying to launch D2C at $29.99, which would be well received versus the $100 fans are paying monthly now for ESPN Plus to get the pay-per-view fights. To me, that's something I wouldn't have passed up. But I don't criticize them. They're an important partner. They're still the premier destination in sports, and we're going to help them build this ESPN D2C.
Okay, I want to circle back to ESPN and the relevancy in all sports in a second, but okay, so then take me to the Paramount CBS deal, because there also was the merger, which was delayed, right, because of the administration and the lawsuits there, whatever. What was that like to work through, in that this is a gigantic deal,
Yeah,
and yet you're also waiting on the merger to get finalized? And there's a window there where even when it gets finalized, it's like 90 days to where it could still blow up. What
that's
was
right.
that part of the process like?
Look, I would tell you, they weren't the leader in the clubhouse by any stretch.
Really?
Not at all. We probably started these conversations, Doug, in February, right? Our ESPN deal's up at the end of this year. ESPN had a 90-day exclusive window. So there was a chance we wouldn't come out of the window. Now, look, it was our goal to come out of the window because we thought we would either A, split the package, or B, split or no split, we were going to get more money elsewhere. But we were all in on ESPN. If they closed the deal, they closed the deal. Similar to the NBA deal, we got out of the window. Then what nobody knew is Netflix had a 30-day exclusive window. So when they negotiated to get Raw, Netflix is so good. I mean, they're so strategic. Their team is so top flight. They negotiated actually for a 30-day window on UFC if and when we didn't get out of the ESPN window with a deal. So, and we were like, what are you talking about? This is a WWE Raw deal. You're not getting an exclusive negotiating window on the UFC. And they negotiated hard for it, and we gave it to them. So we then got into a 30-day window with Netflix. It was going very well that they asked for a 15-day extension. So we gave them another 15. Once that 45 days was up and no deal, then we went to the market. So our first meeting with Paramount was June 3rd. And to your point, they were in the middle of this, obviously getting closure and trying to, get past DOJ and antitrust and, the 60 Minutes fiasco. I mean, there was a lot going on there. And they were like, look, we love the UFC. David Ellison, I know the UFC. Jeff Shell almost bought the UFC back in the day when he was at Comcast. David Burson used to work for me at ESPN, and we remained close. So everybody knew the power of the UFC and what it could do for Paramount Plus, but they really weren't in a position to make that deal. So we continued conversations with Netflix, with YouTube, with Fox, with ESPN. I mean, even DAZN. I mean, we were really in there with everybody. And remember, we really had two packages. Even though ESPN currently has it all, there's the Fight Night package, which is 30 days, 30 fight nights a year. And then there's the pay-per-views, where there's 13 of them. So we had 43, and we thought we would probably split them. And I would say early on, we figured when Paramount CBS got out of their regulatory process, they would probably come in for the fight nights. If not all 30, maybe 15, maybe 10. We might divide that up 3 different ways. But in the end, when they closed, we got fast in a hurry. And they came to us and said, you know what, we're going to take it all. And then we just got into a fast negotiation, and we closed it out in 48 hours. Wow. And now we are where we are, and we're going to launch in January, and it's going to be really exciting. And we're going to build a sick card I mean, we're always trying to build sick cards. Hunter Campbell and Dana White, this is their job, and we do that every month. But we are very focused on having an extraordinary launch event. In the same way when ESPN Plus launched, we had an event at Madison Square Garden. That was the opening event. And we did like 700,000 buys. Now there are no buys. Think of that. If you want to watch the UFC, if you already have Paramount Plus, it's free. It's free. And of course, CBS is free. If you don't, you got to pay $7.99 a month. Even if they raise the price at some point, $8.99, $9.99, whatever, it isn't $100.
We mentioned ESPN, right? The fear is if you leave ESPN, they won't cover you, right? That's what happened with the NHL. That's part of, why the NHL felt like they felt like it was unfair. You and I worked for you when you're at ESPN, and you were all about synergy and promoting from within, so it makes sense. Um, I think my question is not will they still cover you, is does it matter as much, right? Like
Good
when you
question.
were at ESPN and the way you ran it, Sports Center was everything, right? Everything. Now this is everything, right? So honestly, does it matter as much?
Look, it's a great question. It's a great question. It's very poignant. I'll tell you, I'll answer both of those, the one you didn't want to ask and the one you did ask. First of all, I do believe it matters. They're still in 65 million homes. I think the ESPN direct-to-consumer product is going to be a big winner. They have the CFP, right? They have
Yeah.
the SEC. They have the
It's
NFL.
the same,
Right?
a similar demo. There's
Yeah,
a
they
lot of
have the
similarities.
NBA. I mean, they have the stuff that matters. And you want to be promoted and marketed and covered in that neighborhood.
Sure.
Period. End of story. Even though linear will keep declining at some rate, you want to be in the machine. And they are still a machine. There's a lot of great people there, smart people. They know what they're doing. And they know that UFC isn't obviously a big sport, a premier sport, a mainstream sport now. So they're going to cover it because that's their job as a news organization. So that's first and foremost. And I think they will do it because of just that. I will tell you though, very candidly, that when I was at ESPN and I wasn't running the whole show yet, when we first lost NASCAR, which was a big deal, This is I don't even know, around in the late 90s or 2000. It's a Fox and NBC.
Right.
We did stop covering NASCAR
Yeah, of
as
course.
closely as we formerly had covered it. I don't think there was no meeting in some back room. Screw those guys. We lost NASCAR. It's so highly rated. It's crushing us. And it was crushing us. In fact, that's why I got promoted, because our ratings went in the tank. When you lose an every weekend 5 rating or a 6 rating, you can't replace that. And those races did big numbers. And that led to my ascension. And ultimately, we got the NBA and Wimbledon to replace that. And then we went on a tear. But I would just tell you that there was no backroom conversation. Let's promote them less because of revenge or spite. That did not happen. But I think just naturally, like kind of in the water, you just aren't thinking of it as much top of mind. But they learned their lesson on that, and they are aware of the criticism. And I think they will be sensitive to that. And I know we will be calling them 6 ways to Sunday hourly if we feel like they're not doing their job of promoting a premier mainstream sport like the UFC.
Last thing, and I know you got to go, and I appreciate your time.
Of course.
Is
And I should say promoting, covering and promoting.
Well, and covering it is promoting it, right?
Mhm.
It really is. It works together. The rise of UFC, right? From when you were first a young producer at ESPN to now, right? Like the NFL is a 100-year build.
Yeah, exactly.
The NBA has been 100 years. Major League Baseball is over 100 years. Like to go from where they were even in the early 2000s, where they were trying to get to mainstream, to now, you're talking about a premier property on the Tiffany network. This is a story that I don't think has ever played out as such before in sports. Is there?
Doug, I'll tell you this. When I was running programming, I got promoted to the head of programming at 32 years old in 2010. Dana White and the Fertitta brothers came and pitched, and they pitched hard on the UFC. Like, I wasn't sure if I said no, if I might get beat up before they left the room.
Right.
And I didn't do it. And one of the reasons I didn't do it wasn't all my decision. The mouse, Disney,
Yes.
wasn't about to put that sport where it was with
Yes.
blood on the mat on ESPN or ABC Sports. Now, completely different story, obviously. It is mainstream. It is the rise, the evolution, the ascension, the following, the fan base, the number of fighters around the globe, how global it is. I mean, you're talking 210 countries and territories that the UFC is currently broadcast in. You have 600 plus fighters, right? You have 75 different countries of where they hail from, the fighters. You have 50 different languages that broadcast UFC fights. I can't even believe it. I can't believe where it has gone. You know how it has come that far. ESPN's been a big part of that. I mean, they really supercharged it. They put turbo into this. Fox was important. Spike was important. Every step of the way was important. But I would tell you, ESPN had more to do with it than anything else. And of course, Dana White and his team and the way they got behind it and locally and built these stars that won and covered these stars.
Survived COVID too.
Absolutely.
Survived COVID, right? And
No.
expanded in COVID when others we had no live sports. So
And let me tell you, he was the guy. He was calling Ari and I by the hour. I'm not going down. UFC doesn't go down. We will find a place to do this. We were on our way to do an event at Tachi Palace, an Indian reservation in California, so we wouldn't miss a month. And by the way, we needed to, because money-wise, we would have been in trouble. Just at that time, Endeavor, all of our businesses were shut down like everybody else. And yet we had this huge staff and expenses and media rights fees we had to pay at IMG. And so we needed to keep the show going. And he worked out a deal, which would have kept us going, and ESPN would have loved it. And at the end of the day, it was Newsom and Bob Iger that said, hey, too soon, probably insensitive to what's going on. We need you to stand down. So we didn't do that event. We waited a month, and then bang, Fight Island, and they were ready for it. Abu Dhabi, the bubble. Newsom was good with it. Bob Iger was good with it. And we moved on, and that saved the day. And to your point, so many fans sampled it for the first time and became full-time fans.
Amazing. Well, listen, congrats on getting the deal done. I'm sure you'll have to do another one. And I really, really appreciate your time.
Great to see you. Congratulations on all your success.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for your time, man. You're awesome.
Anytime.